In this video, I'm going to show you how to work with the for loop, while loop, and how to create functions. And this will be part 3 in Python. Let me create a new notebook. And let's start with the for loops. Okay, let's say I have a list. And I'm going to give numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And sometimes you're going to iterate through those numbers and you're going to work or do something with those numbers. And let's say I ask you to print the square of those numbers one by one. In that case, it's a good idea to create a for loop. And here's the structure of the for loop. Let's say for, it's going to start with the letter 4, F-O-R. And let's say I say item in my list. Basically means iterate through everything in this list that contains numbers 1 to 5, and each time you iterate through, go get the numbers. For example, go get the number 1. 1 will be assigned to item. In the second iteration, number 2 will be assigned to item, and so on. Okay, let's print the values over here. I'm going to say item to the power 2, and let's run it. Okay, and over here it basically means this is item to the power 2. The first time this runs, it's going to get the number 1. 1 is going to be assigned to the item, and it's going to print 1 to the power 2. And the second time, I'm going to get the number 2. Item will be assigned to number 2. This will be 2 to the power 2. That's why I got the 4. And the third time, it will be number 3. And it will be 3 to the power 2, and so on. And over here, the item is not that much important. Like what you can change the item with, let's say, letter I. This is going to work out fine. As long as you're using the I inside the for loop, that will be fine. Okay. And if you want to show it nicer, you can put stuff like, let's do it this way. Remember, you also learned formatting, and you could just say inside single quotes, let's remove this part. I could say to the power 2 I'm going to put, remember the curly brackets that I showed you before, and you can say format, and the first value is going to be, I'm going to say something like 1 to the power 2 is 1, 2 to the power 2 is 4, and so on. The number that I'm going to put over here is going to replace this first curly bracket. It's going to be I. The second number is going to replace the second curly bracket that I just highlighted. This is going to be I to the power 2. This will also work out fine, and it will look way more nicer. Okay. And this is going to be the way that you're going to be working with the for loops. And the syntax is very simple: for x in my list, and do the stuff inside the for loop. And right now I only have like a one line. I just like the way that in the if statements I can have multiple lines here. As long as they're indented, there it's going to be fine. Okay. And there's also another function that I want you to know. It's called range. Let's put range 10 here, and it's just showing the values 0 to 10. It basically means this. Let's do this one. Let's say I want you to print all the numbers from 1 to 15. You're going to say for I in range 15, and it's not going to print the numbers all the way from, let's do this one, print I, so that you have a better idea. It's going to print numbers from 0 to 14. And the reason is this: if you happen to remember the countings in Python starts from number 0, it basically means whenever you say range 15, it means go get all the numbers from 0 all the way to 15. Do not include 15. That's why I got the numbers 0 to 14. Okay. And if you have only one parameter inside the range, it's always going to start from 0. Let's do it this way. If you do it something like, let's say 7 to 15, it's going to just start counting from 7 all the way to 14. Remember, it's not going to equal 15. You can also do this one. Let's do it this way. Let's enter in another parameter 3. Basically means the increment is going to be 3. It means start from number 7, go all the way to number 15, do not include number 15, and increment it by 3. Okay. In general, we are going to use this first notation, range 15 in general, because this is going to solve most of our problems. But whenever you see two values here, you already know what that means. This is the starting point, this is the ending point. And remember, the ending point is not included. And if you see three numbers inside the range, the first one is the starting point, the second one is the ending point, the third one is the step size. Okay. And keep this in mind, inside 4, let's say 4i in range 5, I can have multiple lines. Okay. Even this thing doesn't have to be related to, I can say hello first, and then I can print the I inside in the next layer. And the idea is this, let's say the I is going to be number 0 first, it's going to print hello and then 0. This line is going to print the 0. And the next iteration, I is going to be number 1, it will print the hello and then number 1. The reason I'm showing you this stuff is this, sometimes in the for loop, you're going to have two print statements, or you might have multiple lines here. As long as they're indented, you're going to be fine. And pay attention to the details here. The for the for loop is going to end with the colon, don't forget it. After colon, when you press enter, it's always going to be indented. And whenever you're working with the Python, never ever use space. Okay, it's going to create more problems. You should use tab. Okay. For example, if you happen to be here, press tab, it will work out fine. Okay. Let's talk about the while loops. And let's give this a name. I forgot to rename the file. Let's give this a name, Python Crash Course Part T. I still couldn't get used to this keyboard. Okay. And let's save it. And let's talk about the while loop. While loop is also quite similar. Let's say x is equal to 5. And let's say I say while x is less than 10. It basically means as long as x is 10, less than 10, do something. Let's say print x. And don't run it right now, because this is going to create lots of problems for us. The reason is this. And inside this Python while loop, I'm not changing the x at all. Which basically means if I run it right now, it's going to run indefinitely, because x is 5, 5 is less than 10, that's true, it's going to print number 5. Next iteration, x is still 5, it's less than 10, it's going to print x again, and this will continue forever because x is always less than 5, it's less than 10 right now. Let's do this one. I'm going to change the x to x plus 1. This will solve the problems. This is going to print all the numbers from 5 to 9. And the idea is this, keep this, if you print the x, you're going to see x is 10, and let me explain why. And let's say x is 9, this condition is true. It's going to print 9, the last number over there. Then x is going to be 10, and then this condition is going to be false, and then it's going to get out of the while loop. But x is going to stay as 10. That's why you should be quite careful whenever you're working with the while loops. And the while loops are, like, we don't use while loops a lot in data analytics, but this is something that you may use or prefer compared to the for loop. That could be your preference, that's also fine. And the idea is this, make sure that inside the while loop you change the condition. After running some time, this condition that I just highlighted right now needs to be false. And this is if you look at the for loop and the while loop, the syntax is quite similar. You say for I in range, for I in this elements and so on, or like in while, it says while some kind of condition. And the while loop is going to run as long as the condition is true. Then it's going to stop running when the condition is false. Okay. And let's talk about the functions. And in Python, sometimes you may want to create functions. Let me remove this row, because this is something that you keep doing all the time and you don't want to rewrite the code. In that case, you create a function and you call the function to get the stuff done. Let's say you keep squaring the numbers all the time and you create a new function. Actually, let's keep this way. this is the definition of the function, and it's always starts with the keyword def, and then square is the name of the function, number is the parameter that I'm passing to the function. Let's say I want to print square of this number. I will just print number to the power 2. Okay, and when I run this thing, nothing is happening because it's right now I'm not calling this function. It exists in Python. It basically means that from now on, Python knows what to do with this function, which basically means if I run square 5, it's going to return 25. The way it works is this. Remember, I'm calling the function with its name square, and I'm passing a parameter number 5. And it basically means the number inside this function is going to be 5, and it's going to print number to the power 2, and that's it. Okay, let me show you another example. Oops. Let's remove this line. Let's say I create a new function called greetings, and I pass no parameter to the greetings. And then I'm going to say print hello. Okay, and this part is super important. Right now in this function, it doesn't accept any parameter. That's why I still have the parentheses. And if I type greetings, it's going to do nothing because I'm not actually calling the function. When I type the name greetings, it just tells me this thing is a function. You have to put the parentheses here to call the function. When I call this function, basically means it's going to do the things indented inside the function. That's why it's printing the hello. Okay, let's change this function a little bit. Let me copy this function. Oops. Let's update this function, and let's say I get a name over there, and I'm going to put something like hello plus name here. Basically means this is string concatenation. Basically means add the word hello to the name and then show it to me. Okay. And if I call greetings this time, let's say I pass my name Ferdy, it's just going to say hello Ferdy. Okay. The idea is this: the text Ferdy will be assigned to the name, and this is going to print hello and the name. And pay attention, after the hello I put a space over there inside the text, and the plus sign over simply means this is just concatenation. And you can do the same thing like this. Both are fine, both will be doing the same thing. Curly brackets and all the way to the end. Format, name. Both are going to return the same thing. Let me run the function. You get the idea. Okay. And sometimes you want to change the function. Right now this function is working fine. Let's say in the definition of the function I say something like hello name equals to Ferdy, and this part is important. Please pay attention. In this case, the default value for the name is going to be Ferdy. Okay. If I run this thing, greetings, let's say with the Joe. Okay. Oh, the name of the function is greetings. That's why it's not working. Here's what is going to happen. I'm passing the parameter Joe. In that case, name is going to be Joe. That's why it's going to print hello Joe twice. Okay. But if I just pass the function alone with the greetings, and in that case, I'm not passing any parameter, and the default value of the function, the parameter for this function is Ferdy. That's why it's printing Ferdy. Okay. It basically means sometimes, like in Python, we are not going to pass all the parameters one by one. That's why the default values are going to be used. Okay. And right now those functions are just, okay, using only one parameters. Let's create another function. Let's give the name. Let me think about it. I mean, you don't need this one, but let's create a function with the name add. And I'm going to pass two parameters, number 1 and number 2. And let's say this thing is going to print number 1 plus number 2. And let me use this one. Let's say I added 5 plus 2, not 5 plus 2, 5 and 2. In this case, this function add has two parameters, number 1 and number 2. When I run this thing, number 1 is going to be 5, number 2 is going to be 2. It's going to do the addition and then print the results. Okay. And let's say you say number 2 equals 2. Let's change this function later. Let me copy this one. Let's say number 2 is 9. And if I say add only 5, this is going to return 14. The reason is this: 5 will be assigned to the number 1. Number 2 is not provided. The default value is going to be number 9. This is going to be 5 plus 9. Okay. And you don't have to put the default value to the function definitions, but in general, it's a pretty good idea. Okay. And right now, those functions are not returning any value. Okay. Sometimes you want the Python to return values. Let's create another function, add. And this guy is going to accept two parameters, number 1 and number 2. And let's say you create a total variable inside the function. It's going to be number 1 plus number 2. And I'm making a mistake. There shouldn't be space between number and 1. And all the way to the end, this is going to return the total. It basically means do the addition, assign it to the value total, and return the value total. Okay. And if I do it this way, if I say add, let's say 5 and 6, and it's just returning the total, but the idea is this: I can create another variable, let's say x equal to this thing. The idea is this: when I pass add 5, 6, 5 will be assigned to the number 1, 6 will be assigned to the number 2. It's going to calculate the total, and then it will return a total. It basically means it's going to do the calculation here, and x will be assigned to this value. Okay, that's why when I run this thing right now, you see nothing. But if you look at the value of the x, you're going to see the number 11. Okay, and these are the functions that return some kind of value. That's totally fine. And you can even write the function this way. Okay, let's do it one more time. Instead of creating the total, you can do this way: return number 1 plus number 2. Okay, and you can say x is equal to add 5 and 6. This is still going to work out fine. Okay, which means there are multiple ways of solving the same problem, but you have to be familiar with the function definitions. And always the functions in Python is going to start with def. And when I have add number 1 and number 2, and this is going to be called a signature of the function. It basically means number of parameters and so on. The order here is important. And this is just going to, some of the functions may return some value, some of them will not return any value. Both are fine. But if you want to, for example, keep this number and then use it later in the code, that's why you have to return the value. Okay. And let me go back to the MyList example that we have before. Remember, I have values 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for this list. And remember, I showed you the MyList.append. Append is a function inside this object. And let me explain what it means. Everything in Python is an object. And whenever you see this like a notation, something like the name of the variable, dot, some kind of like a function, it basically means inside this object, those functions already exist. Let's say I'm going to add number 6 all the way to the end. And if you look at the MyList, you're going to see the number 6 over there. It basically means there are tons of different, not even tons, there are even hundreds of different objects in Python. And each object has its own functions that you can use. And this class, we are going to be using the pre-existing functions in general, but sometimes you want to do something with the datasets, columns, and so on. In that case, you may need to write your own functions. Okay. And that's all for the functions and for loop and while loop. And keep this in mind, in general, we're going to be using the for loop, but you may also need to know a little bit about the while loop too, okay? And this is going to be part number 3. And in the next video, I'm going to cover the NumPy and the pandas. And see you in the next video.